Hi everyone, quick disclaimer before this video starts. Regardless of your views on this matter, I ask you please be respectful in the comments, as these people are taking the time to open up, be vulnerable, and discuss their feelings. I'm going to remind everyone that you were the one who decided to click on this video. Nobody forced you to watch it, you watched it. Any disrespectful and harmful comments towards anyone featured here will be removed and reported, as I will not allow my guests to be attacked. I can handle trolling on my own, but I will not tolerate the trolling of my friends. I also just wanted to say to try to watch the full documentary before forming an opinion on it, and truly listen to what everyone has to say, because we touch on a lot of points, and most likely, a lot of questions you may have will be answered in the video. If you do decide to engage in discourse at all, please do so civilly. In this video, we are going to discuss what I feel is a very sensitive but also very important topic. We are going to be talking about cultural representation and diversity. Now, I've interviewed people from multiple POC groups: Black, Latine, Southeast Asian, and those of mixed race. How does culture and diversity truly play into Mabinogi? Let's take a look. Hi everybody, Real Telly here. Welcome back. You may know me as a Twitch streamer. I stream Mabinogi, and I'm here with my friend Yashitoko. And today's topic is going to be cultural representation and diversity, and why it's important to us, and why we want to see more ethnic representation in the game. When you first started playing the game, what was your first impressions of it? And what was your first impressions of the game? And what was your first impression of the community?
Now, the first impression of the community, it was pretty fun. Let me start there, actually, because it was fun. You got to sit around, talk around with people. But, I guess it had its fair share of toxic people that just didn't like you if you didn't, have enough power. But then again, not everybody really did have enough power. It was,
Mm-hmm.
you know, early stages of the game. Now, my first impression of the game itself, it was great. It was fun. It was one of the best MMOs that I've tried, and it still is. Obviously, now that I'm still here. Um, but there was some discrepancies that I saw that I always thought about over the years, constantly, until they finally had made an update,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the clear influence of racism and the clear influence of diversity, as per our topic. I
Right.
was an elf when I chose my character, but elves couldn't be dark colored skin. I was white for the longest time. And again, nothing's wrong with that. It's just that if I wanted to represent myself as a character, I couldn't do it unless I chose a human or a giant. I believe they had those sunglasses that turns you darker skin colored.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was, made fun of for trying to be darker skin colored, like a darker skin colored elf. And it's like, oh, it doesn't look like you and stuff like that. But that was one, that was my toxic ex, and two, that was some people like messing around. But yeah, it I finally had chosen to be my skin color when that was introduced. I forget what year it was, but never went back.
Never went back. Um, when elves finally got dark skin, how did it make you feel?
I freaked out. I remember I was in a call with quite a few people, and I was just talking with them, and then I was like, "Wait, I can be, you know, darker skin tone now?" And they're like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" And I was freaking out, it's going insane. I was like, "I can actually look like me," like literally, like this. I can just see myself in this game as everyone else wanted to see themselves. This is one of the reasons why I also chose this place. It's like my favorite place to be. It's
Right.
just
Right.
now I can see this room. I can see myself with the skin tone that I want it to be. I feel comfortable in. I can represent myself, and one of the reasons why is because every time someone met me and we exchanged information, and then they saw who I actually look like, they were shocked. because they were like, "Oh, I thought you were white," and it's like, that's my video game character. Why would you think I was white? Like, I had to constantly tell people I can't be black because Nexon won't allow it.
Right. On a more positive note, Yasutoko finally felt more comfortable playing as a darker skinned elf. It goes to show how much representation is important to players. I personally never understood why elves were not given darker skin tones in the first place, as they are in a desert that has massive UV rays. Geographically, it doesn't make sense for elves not to have darker skin tones. Furthermore, if we consider actual elven lore, elves are supposed to be in the woods, as they are wooden creatures. Yet Nexon put them in a desert. So I'm glad they finally gave elves darker skin tones. It seems that there were players that wanted this back in the day, as there was a past petition to give elves darker skin tones. Hi everybody, I'm here with the guild leader of Untamed. His name is Rafla. Introduce yourself, Rafla.
Hi, my name is Rafla, guild leader of Untamed. I've been playing Mabinogi for a while now.
Question: how diverse do you think Mabinogi actually is?
Mm, I guess not a whole lot. I mean, I do see some things that are like, oh, hey, that's neat. I didn't know that existed. Like, I barely found out like a few months ago that Mabinogi has a Matador suit, which I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. But as far as that's like really the only thing I could think of.
In terms of player base, like our player population, how do you how
Mm, I think it's pretty diverse as far as like player base. Like I've met people from like all over and like different backgrounds. At least people that I've like taken the time to like talk to and not just run stuff with.
right? And from what I've gathered, you don't really think that Mabi, in your opinion, provides the necessary means to accommodate people of all types of people to represent them.
No,
Okay,
no. Yeah, I just don't think there's a lot like within the game. But I do think that the player base itself is diverse enough to
okay,
justify having that.
okay. So I didn't remember having a previous conversation with you. You said you were Hispanic. You are Mexican, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What is your experience as a Mabinogi Hispanic player?
Honestly, pretty good. There is a guild that's mostly Spanish speaking, and I can't remember their name right now.
I think I
But
know because
I've
actually interviewed the guild lead. Is it Asesinos?
yes,
Yes.
yes, yeah. I've run content with them a couple times, and I mean, they're all like really nice people. Um, yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Um, what do you think of their community? Because I do know, if you do not know, there is a Latin Latino Discord. Like you know how I have a Black community Discord. There's a Latino Discord as well. Like, what do you think of people who start cultural groups of Mabi, and why do you think having cultural groups are important?
Um, well, I mean, for one, I mean, I'm like behind it. For sure. I didn't actually know that there was like a Latin Discord group for Mobby, but I'm all for it. I mean, I think it's really important. It's nice to meet similar people in games like this.
Right. Why do you think people who connect based on race? Why do you think people bond over the culture they come from?
Mm, I feel like for some people, especially with cultures that have a very big difference between, like the majority, it makes them feel more comfortable, especially ones with like a language barrier.
Right. 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 Right.
Yeah.
I do recall speaking when I spoke with Poeta that it's really hard. She has to help people who don't speak English navigate through the game, or who have trouble understanding English navigate through the game. Um, So it's really nice when you have cultural groups formed to help people within their cultural group accommodate their
Be
needs.
able,
Yes.
yeah,
Larfla goes into depth about their Latin background and how it has impacted their Mabinogi experience. They talk about how they've met people with language barriers and have started to be aware of other Latin players on the game. They also talk about playing with players of their own cultural background. They speak about the Assassinos Guild and its impact on them, and the importance of truly coming together in unity while belonging to a specific cultural group. Now, hi everybody, I'm here with Poeta, guild leader of, how do you pronounce it, Poeta?
Asesinos.
Assassinos. Okay.
Asesinos.
Why did you help in creating a Latin community on Mabi?
Oh, it's a long answer. It's a long answer. Yeah, the main reason is because I have learned over the years as a leader that there are many people who enjoy the game in different ways. Both they sometimes are alone, and sometimes they want to find a community and join the activities, and then end of the game on the day. I think the reason is being together, doing stuff together. Um, what else? I think that I like to create events. I like to create activities for people and like call them and they tell them that join the activities to, hey, let's kill this boss, or let's go and spam this shadows mission because we can get more experience, more gold. That's why I want to spend time with the people, and I feel part. They feel part of the activities. I feel like I'm helping them to create them because sometimes the people is shy and they don't like to start something, and I know that it's hard to, hey, could you want to join me in this party and start this, and I know it's hard sometimes because people not always available for that, but I'm trying to create those activities and invite them to feel part of this. um as well, I like to spend time in completing achievements. I think they're helping them people to join the game and showing them what's about the game to understand. And I think that sometimes it's hard to understand because of the language. Because at the first they say, "Hey, I don't understand what is this. It's in English," and I know because our first language is Spanish.
Mhm.
So we are trying all the time to find a way to understand, and we found it. We found it. Google Translate. It's a key, I think, and I was in the past translate everything, the events
Mhm.
and the activities, and share with the Latino community because they want to know what's about all the activities. And I know that it's difficult. It's difficult to understand everything. And I think that it's a good way to find a way to grow in the game, to have a lot of experience, and because we have this big Latino community, because it's big, it's big. I didn't know at the first, but when I was like helping them, not only my guilds, there are so many other guilds that
Right.
they want to join to understand the game. It's a I think the language is a culture barrier. Like they don't give us that. I think that way to understand the game. So that's why I'm looking for to know, to share with them that we need to have that, to have this, to include it in the game. I think that it's something that is important. And I know it's hard. It's hard because you have not only included Spanish, you have to include more other languages that they needed, right?
Right.
Um, I know that it's difficult to understand because we're a different culture, but we needed to be included on this because we are here. Um, and I think that it's time to speak up and say, hey, we are here and we need this because we like to spend time here. You give us everything and we love it, but we have to have that as well. That's why. Mm-hmm.
Poeta essentially speaks about the early formation of Mabi's Latin community. She talks about the impact of how coming together as a Latin community has ultimately bettered the Latin community. She has done a lot of community work, such as make a Mabinogi Latin group Discord, helping run a Mabinogi Latin Facebook group, and creating tutorials that are translated in Spanish to help Latin and Hispanic players navigate the game. It goes to show that multiple people around the world play Mabinogi, and we have audiences from across the globe. Having a tool such as a language analog would better help players from across the globe browse the game easier. As stated, Poeta works with a lot of Latin players, and she has had to help them by writing translated guides for content for her, the rest of the people in the Latin community to be able to better understand. Hi everybody, Real Telly here, and welcome back to this interview series regarding cultural representation and diversity. I'm here with my friend Takaibo. How are you doing, Takaibo?
I'm doing fine, sir. How are you doing today?
Doing alright. How diverse do you think Mabinogi is?
Well, when it comes to diversity, yeah, I can tell you by the aspect as a Latin player that we do have a lot of diversity. We got people from Europe, from even people from Asia, and that's pretty nice. But when it comes to Latino players, we have people from Central America, South America, Spain, and well, just to mention some countries, I've seen people from Argentina, Venezuela, Peru, Puerto Rico, and well, I can say it again, in Spain as well. So yeah, I can tell you that there's a whole diversity and pretty complete on Mabinogi, and they have helped this game to keep going for all these years. So that's great. We got a lot.
Okay. My second question to you is, what is your experience as a Mabinogi Latino player?
As a Mabinogi Latino player, well, I can tell you that it's been quite different in all these years. Because sometimes people tend to troll the Latin players because they speak Spanish. They are trying to say mean words to us, even if we don't care. And well, I can tell that yeah, there's been some players that tries to bully us. There's been some players that tries to learn about us and try to engage with our culture. It's just that it's quite difficult when the the community first language is Spanish and not English, because it makes a small communication barrier, and well, that depends on how the people learns about that language, you know. Because as I do speak English mostly thanks to Mabinogi, and I can tell you that it's been working for me through all these years, and now I can tell that I'm fully bilingual.
How do you help other Latin players navigate through the game with
What?
English, if the language barrier? Because I do know, like I watched Poeta, like the other night I watched Poeta's stream, and she was going through Yamanoki's skill guide, and she was translating the skill guide. So what do you do to help your part in helping other people translate the game and other things?
Yeah, we have done that. We have done guides. We have guides in the Mabinogi Latino forums, and also on the Mabi Latino Facebook page. We have made some Discord servers to help the Spanish speaker players. Some of them are just lazy to learn the second language, and some others, as I, that we love a lot the game, we're trying to expand Mabinogi, because we do know that if Mabinogi will have a dedicated server, maybe to Spanish speakers, or well, I don't know, trying to get a patch to do a Spanish translation of the game, that will attract a lot of players from the Latin America and South America regions. Because Mabinogi is such a good game with such a high potential that if they will will be willing to make a translation of the game in Spanish, we will have a lot of more people in here, for sure. But what I do as a player to help, it's been to make the guides, to make this community that is Mabinogi Latina. We have over 1,000 members. Some of them are not active anymore. Some of them are new. So we're getting new players every single week, which is good because we got our Facebook group, and then every 2 or 3 days a person comes around and say, hey, I just downloaded the game, how do I play? Hey, I want to learn something. Okay, here are the guides. We just send a link, we send the Discord server, we try to be active, and at the same time with the guilds and all these activities inside the game, we're trying to make the game more expanded to Latin players, so they can be allowed to be in here. Without, not gonna lie to you, I love my culture as a Mexican American player, and being most of my life in Mexico, I can tell you I love the Mexican culture for real. I would like it to be more represented, of course, maybe with some outfits, maybe I can say hairstyles and all, but yeah, maybe some outfits or some celebrations inside the game, like Dia de Muertos even. That would be great for me. Yeah, for real, that would be awesome.
I mean, we do Lunar New Year and stuff like that, so like, go ahead.
Some people, when we see cultural representation, like most of the Latin people, when they say even if it's something that's stereotyped, like hat or something, we do love it because we know what it is and the importance that it has brought to our culture, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm totally agree that it's necessary, and it's also a thing that we should get as players.
Takebu is a longtime player who talks about how he has truly found a sense of community with other Latin players. Truly coming together in unison with other Latin players helped him navigate the game easier. He also emphasizes the numerous possibilities Nexon could take when it comes to diversity in Mabinogi, such as including more outfit options, hairstyles, and so much more. Due to Mabinogi North America proving to have a diverse player base, Nexon will potentially profit by adding more diverse options. Hi guys, welcome back to this short little interview series on our topic of cultural representation and diversity. And we're going to continue this conversation on how it pertains to Mabi. I'm here with a very special friend and one of my admin members for the Black Community Discord for Mabi, Soul. How diverse do you think Mabinogi is?
That's a sort of tough question. I think
Our player base.
Huh?
In terms of our player base, like the people who play.
I think that the player base is actually pretty diverse. Perhaps not diverse enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't know if that there's really anything you could do about that particularly. I do know that for a while there, every time I saw a black player, I would add them to my friend list because it seemed like we were sort of rare. But this was back in the days of Tarlac, when we still had Karlak, Mari, Huayri,
And Alexina, was Alexina still there?
and then later Alexina. No, Alexina came much later.
Well, I definitely do understand that. Especially when Alexina came. When Alexina came, Karlak was pretty much dead. And black people
I don't know
already
why
were a
they decided to
minority.
introduce another server. That was really weird to me too.
Right. So Karlak being pretty dead, and plus especially when you're a minority, say a black person.
Right.
So I understand that, but me specifically, me starting on Alexina and it being the most popular player base at the time, I definitely did see more black people. But I do understand you being on a lesser known server, like a less populated server. You're not gonna see as much black people because we are a minority.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean that was just my experience playing the game for the last few years, up until pretty recently. It was like very, very, very rare to see another black player. So my friends ended up having a lot of people, like a lot of players that I just met, and I added them because they were black, and I was like, oh, this is kind of Nobel.
Right.
So I mean, now I feel like it's a lot better, and I don't know if that's because I'm now a part of this Afro community Discord, but I'm seeing a lot more people of color in the game, and so it's much better than it was. That's for sure.
I see.
And of course, now that all the servers are merged, I'm starting to see other players I had no idea, even played this game.
Right. Me too. And our Discord is slowly growing. Like, how do you like our Discord so far? Like, our main black community Discord.
Yeah, I mean,
we didn't have one from Abby, to my knowledge.
Yeah. So I thought this was a great idea. I remember the day you invited me to it. I was very excited because something like that had been on my mind for a long time. Especially with what I just mentioned about how I didn't see very many black people in the game. I always thought that maybe if we could create a community like that, it would sort of help with that, and bring us a sense of community. So when you invited me to it, I was really excited, and I was telling Jane, like, hey, this twin player just invited me to this Discord, like, we should join. This seems like a really cool thing. And I've enjoyed my stay and my experience here so far. I think you kind of did what needed to be done, and I personally appreciate it.
I think it's a lot of hard work of the advertising it, because you never know who's we were players. We're all behind the screen. You can't assume people's race, but definitely advertising it and definitely putting up party ads, getting notes, and most people who are of dark or tan skin play characters that represent them. Because our skin I know in our community, our skin color is very important to us because we see it as a form of empowerment, especially everything we've gone through. So I always ask though, hey, but the way I usually approach it, hey, I don't know your race, but your character's dark and tan skin. You do have this. We have this Discord. It's open to not only black people but allies as well, because you never know if you can't assume people's race. I never assume people's race in the game. So it's open to allies as well, and it is open to allies, sincerely and genuinely. Because we have
and the interesting thing about that is, now that you've mentioned it, you really can't tell what race somebody is just from looking at their character, because people do play as characters that are lighter or darker than themselves. And I had a situation like this where I invited somebody to the Discord, and I was talking to her. Her character was black. And I was talking to her, we were having a nice conversation, and I was like, hey, we have this Discord for Afro players. If you want to join, you're welcome. And she was like, oh, actually, I just play a black character. I'm actually white in real life. And I was like, oh, well, it's open to allies too, but that sort of threw me off. So I think the way you went about it is is a little better.
Why is cultural representation important to you?
I think cultural representation is important in general because, unfortunately, in this world, it seems like white is the default for everything. And you see that in many many games, and I play a lot of video games. It's like my hobby, and I tend to go for games where you can create your own character, and I like to create characters that look like me. Not exactly like me, but a lot of the time they will have my skin tone and some, black features if possible. I've noticed over the years that sometimes even when you're allowed to create a character, you don't have these options. And that is very disappointing for consumers who are not necessarily, white, European, or Japanese, or whatever. People who don't have light skin tones. I remember when the Animal Crossing game before this last one that was released on Switch, I think it was called New Leaf, came out. Animal Crossing, at least I thought it was a game where you were supposed to be able to create your own character. And most people are going to create people or create an avatar that represents them in some way. And whether or not people want to admit it, ethnicity, race is part of our identity, right? A lot of people are going to try and create characters that somewhat look like them. This is like a fantasy thing. You're sort of like a self-insert a lot of the time. So I was really disappointed to find out that you couldn't even make your character darker than a piece of paper in that game. And the only way to even do that was to start playing the game, and then you had to go and make your character stand in the sun for a while just so they could become tan. Not even dark skin, tan, right? And this is a game that was created by Nintendo. This is a worldwide company. This is a company that has already released a few games where you can create a character with dark skin tones. I think Pokemon X and Y came out before New Leaf, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, now that's another thing where that was actually, I think, the first game where you could even do anything like that.
Right.
But it had precedent. That's what I'm getting at. It had precedent. New Leaf had precedent. And the fact that they could release a game in that state when they've already released another game where you could customize your character beyond, the European sort of set of features. I don't really know why they thought it was a good idea to release the game in that state. I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed it, but I'm also sure many more people didn't really get the chance to even play it, because if they were anything like me, they turned it off as soon as they realized they couldn't create something that looked or represented them in some way. Representation is extremely important. It allows people to identify with, on a more personal level, the content that they're engaging with. Mm-hmm. And back to my earlier point, the issue with games where you can customize your character a lot of the time is that white seems to be the default for everything. Another example is, and this is going to be sort of weird, but I know that I play Fortnite. It's a game I enjoy on occasion. And it looks like anytime there's a character that has their face covered, or you can't really see much about them except, maybe bits and pieces of skin here and there, the character is white. The character has white skin. I don't think I've seen very many Fortnite skins where, everything else is covered, and then, the bits and pieces of the skin that you can see are brown. And that's sort of the point I'm getting at, is that by default, everything is white. And it's especially irritating to me to see Mabinogi sort of going backwards in this regard, because they, in the past, have released gloves and shoes that, they were open-toed or open-fingered or whatever. Digits were exposed. And you could see your character's skin underneath them. It's been done. So I don't know why they suddenly started taking to releasing these new items that by default had white skin, like white fingers and white toes already in them. So that you have to go in and either try to guess, use a regular die to try and get your skin tone, right? Or luckily, at the time I realized this was becoming a real problem, Doki Doki had come out, and I was using my event dyes. I was playing the mini game to try and get the exact RGB for my character's skin tone, so that I could dye these open-fingered gloves that they were releasing sequentially, so that my character could use them and have them look the way they're supposed to look. It's not fair because other people had the privilege of just getting whatever dyes they wanted and dyeing their clothes whatever colors they wanted to dye them. I had to spend all my dyes on dyeing gloves to match my skin tone. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. That does not make any sense. Does not make any sense at all. I don't know.
And I had to, like, the fact that I had to go through this really roundabout method. I had to open the dressing room. I had to find my skin tone, the one that my character uses. I had to take a screenshot. I had to upload that screenshot to a website so that I could get the RGB. Then, I had to go and play the Doki Doki minigame to try and get the exact RGB. It's crazy that we have to jump through so many hoops just because we're black.
Soul talks about how back in the day it was harder to meet other black players in the game. He talks about how meaningful the Mabinogi Black Community Discord is to him, as numerous black players who play Mabinogi stand in solidarity with each other. Black players have faced a lot of discrimination in the Mabi community as a whole, as in our inner Mabinogi Black Community Discord, we screenshot and share numerous harassment incidents. Racial discrimination exists in Mabi, whether you see it or not. I think it's important to be aware of this issue. If you ever do see it, for those of you who care, please be an ally in the situation and support your POC friends. Soul also talks about how having equipment items with preset fair skin tones are unfair to players of color, as players of color have to use dye amps and play around with dye amps all the time to get the correct dye code that matches their skin tone. Hi everyone, Real Telly here, and I'm here with someone who couldn't do a formal interview. However, they wanted to leave a public statement. Their IGN is Lustrous Fox. That's a capital LUSTROUSFOX. And her nationality is Filipino. So she says this: I've been occasionally playing Mabinogi for a couple of years. And although it's a game that is primarily revolving around a fictional world in terms of diversity, I think it's been fairly inclusive with the availability of skin tones upon character creation representing different existing ethnicities. It should be made clear though that cultural representation is not only limited to the availability of skin tones. I notice how the game has been releasing different items with visible skin, like gloves or shoes and even dresses, with a default light skin tone, which was not sitting well with me. Being a Filipino, gifted with a naturally darker skin tone, I've always wanted to let my characters represent who I am in real life, and let them look as close to me as possible. And previously mentioned items I've been wanting to use have been prevented that. I really appreciate if the game would allow these items to match the chosen skin tone of the player's characters, rather than sticking to a default one, especially considering how there's a lot of Mabinogi players from so many different parts of the world. This fact leads to my next point that I like to address. Through my years of playing Mabinogi, I've made a lot of friends and met a lot of people, and I can definitely say that at least 50% of them are from outside of North America. I used to communicate in English. I haven't had this problem, but I have seen how some new players have been struggling with understanding some of the mechanics of this game, simply because of language barriers. Aside from making them feel excluded, it also hinders them from fully having fun, and how the game might start to feel like a chore rather than a stress reliever. This has made me realize how helpful it would have been to have different languages available in the game, outside from English and Korean. I firmly believe that cultural representation is important, even in online games. Personally, it makes me feel seen. It lets me know that people who are not from my place are aware that we exist. That is from Lustrous Fox, everyone. So over here, we have problematic for players of color or players who want their character to have a tan of any sort, because we have to figure out the correct RGB dye code to get the equipment item to match our character's skin color. And I feel like that shouldn't be a thing, because last time I checked, clothes are not supposed to have skin on them. So if Nexon can remove the skin portion of these items that have nails on them, it would work tremendously. Like for future items, if you want to have nails or rings on any gloves of any kind, simply figure out the correct patch to not involve skin on that equipment item. As you can see, Lustrous Fox is a Filipino player who also has an issue with having default fair skin on equipment. Equipment with default fair skin was not seen before on older items. This is quite strange, as adding skin color to clothing items seems rather unnecessary. Last time we checked, clothing was made of materials such as cotton, wool, polyester, silk, and fabric. The only thing close to the skin to make clothes is leather, but you know, that's animal skin. We are not the only people concerned about this. I was talking about this matter in the official Mabinogi Discord, and this person says, "You mean the outfit/pieces with skin colored but dyeable parts? I hate those so damn much." As we all know, Mabinogi is a Korean game. Many use that fact as a means to dispute any reasoning to add further diversity into Mabinogi. However, let's pause and think about that for a minute. It's a Korean game based on Celtic mythology, meaning it's a Southeastern Asian game that has adapted lore from Irish 12th mythology, which is from another culture within itself. I would also like to note that there have been instances in which Nexon has strayed from the Celtic lore to further market to more audiences and enhance player experience. For instance, adding the Shakespeare generations and the incorporation of Avon. Adding crossovers such as Vocaloid, Sword Art Online, and Fate Stay Night. We have pets such as sentient leaves, motorcycles, and corgis. Furthermore, in the past, Nexon has taken steps towards diversity and inclusion. Both in-game NPCs, Manus, the Dumbarton Healer, and Bebhin, the Tier Banker. This is the original Korean version of Bebhin. This is what Bebhin looks like now. This is the original Korean version of Manus. This is what Manus looks like now. Both were given a darker skin tone for the North American adaptation of the game. I would also like to note there's been numerous tanned NPCs added into the game as well. Tanned characters such as Aaron, Treasure Hunter, and Jenna. Both NPCs, Jenna from Generation 9, 11, 10, and 12, the Alchemy storyline, and Treasure Hunter from Generation 21, 24, and 25, Apocalypse storyline, were featured in the main Mabinogi lore. Due to the previous inclusion of characters of color in the past, it would be nice to see more darker skinned characters with the complexion of Manus and Bebhin within the main Mabinogi lore. A whole area expansion was added into the game, and within it we have Core Village, representing what you can call the native, aboriginals, or the indigenous people. This is shown through architecture. See that tribal symbol on the house? The clothes of the villagers. And the use of dream catchers, which were known to be used by the native or indigenous people. Even diverse clothing options have been added, such as the Samba Festival outfit, Shamala outfit, Water Spirit outfit, and so much more. An Afrocentric wig called the Special Musician wig has also been added to the game. This is a black hairstyle due to the way the braids are specifically styled into locks. To see more actual Afrocentric hairstyles such as these, instead of wigs in the dressing room, would be nice. Now, if you browse through the actual dressing room of the game, you don't really have a lot of options in terms of black hairstyles. Elves have no black hairstyles at all, okay? If I go on my human, alright, we have like one afro, and it's shaped like a box, okay? It's not really that detailed. These buzzcalls I see like they're inspired by anime, because I see these types of hairstyles in anime characters. So I wouldn't really consider them black hairstyles. You don't really have a lot to work with. You don't. Due to the fact that there have been instances where Nexon has strayed Mabinogi from its original lore and its actual storyline, pets, crossovers, and more, and already having taken steps towards diversity in the past, it is not too far-fetched for players of color and people who care about this topic to give critique on the game's current state of diversity and add some recommendations. Mabinogi being a Korean game based on Celtic lore should not be too heavily considered when it comes to the discussion of adding more diversity. These are valid concerns coming from players of color, community members of the game, and customers of Nexon's product. A petition was created on change.org called More Ethnic Representation on Mabinogi, North America. The main points of this petition are the removal of preset skin tones on gear, a player's chosen skin tone to be reflected in the items they wear, the constant release of items such as beach gloves, Milky Way gloves, surf and turf wristbands. This allows many Black, Latine, Southeast Asian, and Native players to easily customize their characters in ways that were not seen in older items. Gas hat shoes, Doran shoes, Bandam maritime sandals, etc. So if I go down to one of the examples that I've posted in the updates, this is problematic, as previously was stated in the documentary. We really have to try to figure out the RGB code to get the correct skin color of our characters and to dye the equipment item to the appropriate skin color, and it's not fair. Another point of this petition: the inclusion of more hairstyles prevalent within the Black, Latine, Southeast Asian, and Native communities in the dressing room. Mabinogi Korean headquarters has a clear understanding of what ethnic hairstyles look like, as they've done it before in the form of a wig. If we go back to the updates, this is the Special Musician wig. This is clearly Afrocentric in the way the braids are designed. Furthermore, as we noted previously in this documentary, Nexon has added some ethnic clothing options, such as the Sambala outfit, the Water Spirit outfit, the Samba Festival outfit, and more. And if Nexon could continue to add ethnic outfits such as these, it would be very much appreciated. The ability to incorporate more outfits customized by the community. In the past, this was incorporated to character cards such as the Rapport Rabbitude and the Bat set. And the community was able to do this in the past through player competitions where players would submit their designs and whoever's design won would their outfit design would be featured in the game. I strongly think this would help players of color in terms of designing their own outfits and help boost more ethnic options for players who want to design their characters as such. Lastly, we're talking about how other Southeastern Asian games, such as Dragon Raza or Black Desert Online, are moving in the direction of diversity, and how diversity is very marketable to gaming audiences. And this is shown through updates I've posted on the petition to further back up these claims. According to a gaming study by Newzoo and Intel, about 54% of gamers in the US believe that diversity is important, and 47% of gamers do not play games that they feel represent them. So more than half of people in the US think diversity is important. And a good chunk, 47% of gamers, feel they are not represented in games. And if you look at the actual data here, a large percentage of young adults are gamers. So like black and Latino people. So black people, 46% of black people are in that play games or in the age bracket of 21 and 35, and 53% of Hispanic and Latinx people are in the age bracket of 31 and 35, and that's the age bracket of most online gamers nowadays. And this is why diversity is marketable, because most online gamers are black and Latino, according to Newzoo and Intel. We have the example of more curly hair in Dragon Raja. Of course, here's an example of a character wearing a low top fade in Black Desert Online. The special musician wig is what Nexon could reference when it comes to adding more ethnic options in terms of hair, as stated previously in the documentary. And the problem with putting skin on equipment items needs to be addressed as well. Hopefully Nexon takes the time to listen. We believe that when you make a North American adaptation of a game, you should be culturally aware of who your audience is, and people deserve to feel represented in the games that they play. Period. By the
Sorry
way,
about that.
okay, what did you say, Poeta? Poeta would like to say something in Spanish real quick. What were you gonna say?
Yeah. Saludos para toda la comunidad latina. Estamos aquí, amigos. Estamos aquí.
What does that
Okay.
mean?
Hi to all the Latino community. We are here. We are here.
Yes.
Yeah, we're here. Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you for your time and to hear me.
No problem.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.